Here's your wrestling news for September 12th, 2021. And your headlines for today include WWE reportedly sets big record with last night's SmackDown at MSG, Edge gets emotional backstage, gifts given to WWE talent, where was Vince McMahon and Nick Khan during WWE SmackDown at MSG, an update on Sasha Banks, Fox reportedly offered to help WWE sign CM Punk, sad news for Bobby Lashley and Randy Orton fans, Ryback possibly returning to pro wrestling soon, Carmella, Zelina, Vega, and Liv Morgan react to their match being cut from SmackDown. That hurts me. Former WWE champion unhappy with Zelina Vega match being cut from SmackDown. Parker Boudreaux receives the customary WWE NXT name change. Vince McMahon's shocking offer for Bryan Danielson. Recently released WWE superstars make AEW debut at Universal Studios tapings. 28 WWE talent released, and more. We are kicking off today with SmackDown, which aired from Madison Square Garden in what was a historic night for WWE. On Twitter, Ariel Helwani revealed that this week's SmackDown inside MSG was the highest-grossing gate for the Blue brand of all time. Given that the show has been around for over 20 years, this is a huge accolade for the September 10th show, and one that may never be beaten. Last night's show saw Lillian Garcia sing the U.S. national anthem before cameras started rolling, some huge matches, such as Edge vs. Seth Rollins, the return of Brock Lesnar, and John Cena competing in a dark main event, which culminated in one history-making night for the Blue brand. This week's SmackDown saw WWE return to Madison Square Garden in what was an especially big night for Edge. It was only a few years ago that the idea of Edge competing in MSG would have been impossible, and PW Insider reports that the Hall of Famer was very emotional for his first match back inside the world's most famous arena. There was a moment during a commercial break following Edge's entrance where he got on his knees and kissed the mat, showing the respect he has for the ring. The match between Edge and Rollins was a truly awesome encounter, with many considering it better than their SummerSlam bout, but the match reportedly went way over time. In the end, Edge lost to Rollins and was later stretchered away by EMTs, and one EMT fans may have recognized as Aaron Rourke of WrestlePro. Other indie stars backstage for SmackDown included former Impact Wrestling star Kevin Matthews, as well as the Tate twins, who were previously Dalton Castle's boys in ROH. Despite so many indie stars backstage, WWE had a strict no visitors policy for friends and family, but the superstars were given personalized gift boxes with sweet merch from MSG. Perhaps more gift boxes are in the works as WWE will return to Madison Square Garden for their annual post-Christmas live event on December 26th, which didn't take place last year due to the situation. We'll have to see if Edge appears at this Boxing Day live event, as there's rumors that he'll be moved to Raw later this year, but with the pre-sale for MSG tickets starting yesterday, we expect the show to be a sellout later this year. Vince McMahon himself was at SmackDown at MSG this week, making his return after he missed a couple of shows. PW Insider reports that the chairman was fully in charge and that Nick Khan was also present and was seen talking with fans all night. WWE's chief brand officer Stephanie McMahon also greeted fans before the show in MSG's Delta Club, and it's reported that both Riddick Moss and Sasha Banks were among those backstage, but obviously neither was used on TV. Moss has been out since September 2020 with a torn ACL, but was also backstage for a Raw event last month. And Banks has been missing for the past month for an unknown reason, which caused her to miss her SmackDown Women's title shot at SummerSlam. It was reported last week that WWE had hoped Banks would be back on the road for this week's SmackDown, which she was, but we'll have to keep waiting to see just when exactly the boss will return to WWE programming. Over to AEW next, as CM Punk made his epic debut for the company just a few weeks back, but there was a time where he was open to returning to WWE. Speaking to ESPN earlier this month, Punk said he and WWE had talks in December 2020, but they didn't go far as he claims the promotion played games with him. We now know more about WWE's efforts to re-sign him, as the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that Fox were the ones who pushed WWE into signing him, as Fox and Punk had a great relationship due to his time on WWE Backstage. WWE told Fox that the money was too high to sign Punk, but Fox even offered to help out with the financial side of things, but were shut down when WWE officials gave other reasons they didn't want Punk, including attitude issues. The Observer also notes that Punk joining AEW had been in the works for a while and had discussed money and storylines as early as February this year. Punk was the one who suggested debuting at the United Center in Chicago, and he and Khan agreed not to announce him, but to give enough teases to let fans buying tickets know he was there. Now Punk is all elite and has a multi-year deal to his name, and with a feud with Team Taz in the works, fans won't be waiting long to see him back in the ring. Later this month, WWE will host their Extreme Rules pay-per-view, but one marquee match is seemingly off the card. It had been previously announced that WWE Champion Bobby Lashley would face Randy Orton on the show, and that on tomorrow's Raw, Orton and Riddle will defend their tag team titles against Lashley and MVP. In a commercial during SmackDown, however, the WWE Championship match was announced for Raw, and there was no mention of the tag team match, or whatever they now have planned for Extreme Rules. Just because the title match has been announced for Raw doesn't mean it'll happen, as WWE has a tendency to not deliver pre-announced matches, and we'll hopefully get some answers during tomorrow's show. In 2016, Ryback was released from WWE, and despite claiming he's not done in the ring, has only had a handful of matches over the past 5 years. Now the big guy is once again teasing a return to the ring, as he tweeted that he's the most famous pro wrestler on TikTok, despite not having a match in 3 years. Calling himself your hero, Ryback said that he is returning soon, and that the fans will cheer him when he does. It remains to be seen if Ryback has had any talks with any companies about a return to wrestling, or if any company is interested in the former Intercontinental Champion. Earlier this year, Ryback hosted a series of polls, almost all of which encouraged him to retire, before he eventually got a response saying he should join NXT, and time will tell whether the big guy is part of the new era of the Gold brand. Back to SmackDown, as this week's show was a history-making night for WWE, but not everyone made it to the card. Fightful Select reports that Liv Morgan and Toni Storm were meant to face Carmella and Zelina Vega, but that match was cut, and those involved aren't happy. As for Vega, she shared photos of the attire she was meant to wear for SmackDown and MSG with a simple caption, "Never mind." All three women are going through a rough patch, as Carmella has lost her last 10 matches, Vega hasn't picked up a win since returning to WWE this year, and Morgan, despite massive support from fans, hasn't been pushed by WWE yet. Vega being cut from the show has been especially controversial for fans, many of whom are aware that Vega's father died on 9/11 in New York City 2 decades ago. On social media, Mick Foley called out WWE's decision to cut Vega's match on the eve of the anniversary of her father's death, saying, "That hurts me," and added that he can only imagine how the SmackDown superstar felt. Vega didn't get the chance to appear on the September 10th Super SmackDown, but did appear in New York the next day, as part of a special tribute for those who died on 9/11. In a public memorial, Vega praised her father, Michael Angel Trinidad, saying that she wishes he could have been a part of her wedding to her husband Tommy, aka AEW's Malachi Black. It's been reported that the outfit Vega was meant to wear for SmackDown was a tribute to her father, which only makes their decision to cut her match all the more tone-deaf. And although she could appear next week, this week's show was something that would have been extra special to Vega had WWE actually used her. Over to Raw next, as Doudrop has had an impressive 2021 so far, becoming the first NXT UK call-up to the main roster, and she's now also a married woman. On Twitter, the former Piper Niven shared a photo of herself and her husband on their wedding day, and WWE followed up with an official congratulations to the happy couple. Mrs. Doudrop only recently split with Eva Marie, but she's got herself a tag team partner for life, and we'd like to offer our congratulations to the happy couple at this joyous time. Earlier this year, Parker Boudreaux signed with WWE, and like many young superstars breaking into the company, he'll now be going by a different name. On Twitter, Parker announced that his new name is Gunnar Harland, and used a fire emoji to show just how pleased he is with this new moniker. Boudreaux made headlines with how he resembles a young 2002-era Lesnar, and has even had some praise from Lesnar's longtime advocate Paul Heyman, but it'll be Gunnar Harland who's referred to as the next big thing from now on. At All Out, Bryan Danielson made his debut for AEW 4 months after his last WWE match, but Vince McMahon tried his hardest to keep him around. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, McMahon himself gave Danielson permission to work New Japan's G1 Climax, the lengthy round-robin tournament in Japan that would have kept Bryan off TV for a month or longer, given the current quarantine regulations. It's been speculated that McMahon may not have known what the G1 Climax was when he gave Danielson the okay, but nothing has confirmed those rumors. WWE President Nick Khan has attempted to work an exclusive deal with New Japan, which prompted AEW President Tony Khan to speed up his own discussions with the promotion, and given the amount of New Japan talent showing up on AEW programming recently, including Minoru Suzuki this week, the talks between New Japan and AEW have clearly paid off. Both WWE and AEW offered a similar amount, an estimated $6.5 million a year contract, and both offered Danielson a big guarantee, limited dates, and work outside their companies. Bryan's decision to join AEW was because he believed it would be the best thing for the wrestling industry, and hoped WWE would be more open to sending talent to Japan to prove themselves. Bryan and AEW also helps the wrestlers, as there's an alternative to WWE where they can earn money, and the company continued to be an alternative to WWE. As for Bryan's yes chance, the former WWE champion will likely avoid using them from now on, but if that chant starts organically among the fans, he's not going to push back. Dave Meltzer has reported that Bryan has signed a 3-year deal with AEW, and his future will make for some very interesting viewing after so long in WWE. For the past year, WWE has let a lot of wrestlers go, and many have landed in AEW, and that now includes 2 more ex-superstars from NXT. In the most recent wave of firings, Stallion Rogers and Anthony Green were cut from WWE, but the pair were at the recent AEW Dark tapings from Universal Studios where they faced FTR. We'll have to see if this appearance for Green and Rogers leads to anything more than a one-off deal. Green and Rogers weren't the only former NXT superstars to appear at the Dark taping at Universal Studios, as during the second round of tapings, Santana Garrett made her AEW debut, facing Diamante. Many fans were surprised to see Garrett released by WWE earlier this year, especially as a main roster debut was expected after she'd been called up, but now Garrett has a chance to make a name for herself if her appearance at the tapings leads to a full-time deal for her. And we're ending today with NXT, who will debut their new redesign next week, but will do so without a lot of the crew they are used to. Bodyslam.net reports that NXT has undergone another wave of cuts, with 28 more names who work with the Gold brand being let go. It was explicitly noted that the bulk of these cuts came from production, and that the show is down to a quote, skeleton crew, the absolute minimum amount of people they need to run the show. This report comes just 1 week after it was reported that the main roster is down to just 1 backstage camera crew, as the company's efforts to slim down their teams have put even more people out of work this week. NXT 2.0 has already received criticism for how it looks so far, and although WWE is hoping to impress fans next Tuesday, they'll have to do so without a lot of the people who are usually there to put the show together. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.